Hello, friends, and welcome back to Facetime. I am Nick Face, and it's great to see you all once again. I hope all of you are staying healthy and also enjoying these episodes that we're providing you here through Sports Zone. This week is going to be all reserved for our theme called transportation. As many of you know, there are many ways of getting around. You can walk, you can ride a bike, you can ride in a car, you can travel on an airplane, a train, going on a boat. All of those things we are going to talk about this week on our episodes, all dedicated once again to transportation. On today's program, we're going to be talking about all things cars. We're going to be talking about the history of cars and when they were first made. We're going to be talking about the types of cars. We're going to be talking about the brands of cars. We're also going to have a really fun activity for you this episode where you're going to be able to make your own car course obstacle course right from home. And we hope that you're able to share that with us so we can take a look and see which one of you out there has been the most creative in designing your own course. I have a special video that we will take a look at from something that I know many of you kids are very familiar with, and that's Dude Perfect, who made an obstacle course. I'm going to share that with you, and maybe you can create your own design a little bit later on this episode. Before we start looking at all the different types of cars and the different brands of cars, it's important to know what the function of a car is supposed to do. So as we all know, a car is a wheeled motor vehicle, and its main goal is to get from one point to another, or one place to another. They typically run on roads, and they seat anywhere between 1 to 8 people. They also have 4 wheels. That's something that's pretty common, standard across all different vehicles. The year was 1886, and that year was when the birth of the car came about. So that was way, way back in time. Cars became widely available in the early 20th century. And one of the first cars that ended up being produced was something called the Model T, and that came from 1908. And it was made by the Ford Motor Company. I am lucky enough that I can share a video with you that shows exactly what this Model T car from Ford looks like. So we're going to take a look at that right now. Again, they call it the production of the Model T from 1908. I mean, look at the car. Compared to what we see now in our day and age, really different. So there you have a brief video of what the very first Model T car looked like. And again, that was made by the Ford Motor Company. Before we start looking at the different types and brands and all those different things from cars, I think it's important how we understand how a car works. So I have a video right here, it's very quick, that shows how a motor works. As we know, cars need motors to run. Let's check that out. So cylinders are something that's very important for how a car operates and functions from the motor. And that's the thing about cars. They need the power to be able to run. So we'll share this video again with you so you can go back on it and take a look more at how the cylinders come together, so how it produces the power to get your car to be able to go. As I said earlier, cars have evolved big time over the years. When we saw that Model T, there were a lot of striking differences between cars now versus cars way back then. I happen to have a video next that shares with all of you how cars have evolved throughout all the different eras in time. So let's check that out next. And boy, wouldn't that be a nice car to have right now. This has the evolution of cars from 1880 all the way up to 2010. As you can see already, a lot of the cars are getting more and more sophisticated. This is a car from the 1900s. This is a car from 1905. And then there's our 1908, like we just talked about, that Model T. This car's from 1910s. Here's a car from the 1915s. Now we're getting into the 1920s. Now they're becoming a little bit more enclosed. This is from the 1930s now. This car is looking at the 1940s now. Cars are now starting to get a little bit more big, and here is the 1950s. Becoming a little bit more colorful too. This car is from the 1955s. Here is a car from the 1960s. This is looks like a racing car from the 1965s. Now we're getting into the 1970s for cars. It's really neat to look at this because the styles are so different. Here is a car from the 1975s. This is a car, it looks like a Cadillac from the 1980s. They were known as, and still are, a luxury car. Here's a car from 1985s. And this looks like a Honda from the 1990s. Now we're getting a little bit more into current day, what things look like. Here is looks like a Nissan Altima from the 2000s. And then finally, to wrap it up here, we have cars that are more from our generation here. This is a car from the 2005s. Here's a car from the 2007s. And then we have our 2010s right here. So that history of evolving over time that we just saw from that video, it's pretty amazing to see the striking differences from way back from the 1880s all the way into now. One of the big things that I see from just looking at these cars is the enclosure. Cars were pretty wide open back in the day, and nowadays they're all enclosed. So that's pretty cool right there. We'll share this video with you so you can go back and take a look at more of it on your own time too, to see about the evolution of cars. I remember when I was a kid that I had some sort of a amazing car talent, and if any of my family is watching right now, they knew that when I was about 2 years old, I could, for some reason, I just loved cars when I was younger, and I could point out that's a Mitsubishi, and that's a Ford, and that's a Chevy. when I was 2 years old, and I just loved cars. I used to play with those little Matchbox model cars as well, and I could just blurt out those brand names of cars like it was nothing. It was pretty incredible on what I could do. My family could tell you more stories about that if you would like to hear those. But I would like to right now get into an introduction on the different brands of cars. And as you can see from the background screen right here from me, there are so many different car brands that are there in the world. There are Kias and Toyotas and Nissans and BMW and Chevy and Ford, all different names right there. Honda, another big one that's there too. But does anybody out there know what are the most popular brands of cars are? I happen to have an article up here that discusses the top 10 cars in the world. So the first place car happens to be the Volkswagen. I personally did not know that before putting this great episode for cars together today. I always thought it was Toyota. Toyota is actually in second place. The third place car is called the Daimler. The fourth place is Ford. Fifth is General Motors, so that's your Chevys of the world right there. Honda is sixth. Seventh is the SAIC. Eighth is the Fiat Chrysler. Ninth is BMW. And then 10th place was the Nissan Motor Company. And we'll share this article with you too, because it is fascinating to learn more about what are the more popular brands for cars that are out there in the world. And again, here's a really cool image that has the majority of all the different cars there are in the world. So very, very cool right there. Next up on our vehicles to take a look at are cars known as coupes, and they are typically two doors, and they're typically more of a faster, sportier looking vehicle. This article right here happens to have a listing of the 10 best coupes of 2019. And as you can see, Ford Mustang is ranked number 1. Then you have the Dodge Challenger, Chevy Camaro, a Honda Civic, Honda Accord is then next. At number 6, you have the Corvette. You have the Nissan 370Z at 7, the BMW 428, a Scion, and then finally an Audi A5. And again, those are examples of coupe cars. Next, we are going to take a look at a vehicle where you usually have a cover on it and it comes down, and those are convertibles. And I happen to have a video next up that we will take a look at that has the 10 best convertible cars you can get right now. We're not going to watch the whole thing. We're going to take a look at a couple different examples, and then we can share this video with you if you'd like to watch the entire thing on your own time. So let's check that out next.
If the perfect sports car
this happens to be number 2. This is the Mercedes E-Class Cabriolet, number 2 ranked convertible.
In second. It's pretty much as classy as 4-seater convertibles come, and has the style of the larger and far more expensive S-Class Cabriolet in a smaller, cheaper package. It's super comfortable, spacious, and is brewing with Mercedes' best tech. There are sharper convertibles on sale, not least the smaller C-Class, but few can match the E-Class's boulevard cruising character.
And then the number 1 ranked convertible is the Mini convertible.
It's grown up a lot over the years. It's less cute and cuddly than before and a bit more focused. It retains Mini's famous agile handling, and the addition of wind in the hair thrills only improves things.
So again, right there you had examples of convertibles. The next vehicle that we'll take a look at is something that many families might have this vehicle. It's called a minivan. And minivans have had a long history of being great cars that can transport a lot of family and friends around. Typically hold probably up to about 7 or 8 people in this van. We have a video next that we'll take a look at that shares a little bit more about different styles of video. Actually, we're going to just take a look at a link right here that says some of the best minivans for 2020. And the Honda Odyssey is ranked number 1. Then you have the Kia Sedona. And then you have the Chrysler Pacifica at number 3 right there. And we'll share all these links with you so you can get a chance to take a look more at all these different vehicles. One of the more common vehicles that is on the road right now that is very popular with so many people, and that is SUVs, otherwise known as sports utility vehicles. We're going to take a look now at some of the best SUVs of 2019 and 2020.
We're here to help you find the SUV that's right for you and your lifestyle. To make things simple, we've picked only the best.
And more cargo room. Our pick in the subcompact category is the Hyundai Kona. May look a little funky, but the Kona is our winner because it has a good grasp
Have you
on
ever
all
heard
the
of this
basics
car?
and no dramatic
Definitely
failing.
looks pretty funky.
Strength number one, the interior. The cargo space is easy to access and there's plenty of room. You get standard support for Android and Apple phones. Best part
They
for
call this
Cargy,
a
it's nice
subcompact
ride. We like
SUV.
the comfort, handling, and the turbocharged engine.
The Kona isn't perfect, but in a class full of compromises, it brews up a great combination of strengths in a package that feels firmly put together. Very much. Very easy to use and very well assembled.
This
The
is a
X1's
luxury
turbocharged engine
subcompact
produces just over
SUV, and
200
that's a
horsepower,
BMW
so
right
it
here.
scoots around respectably for a subcompact SUV. Despite its small size, the X1 has plenty of space for people and luggage. The cargo capacity is impressive and the liftover height is low. Just keep in mind that some of that cargo volume comes from the underfloor storage area where a spare tire cousins with a good helping of the towing, hauling, and people-moving capability of their big truck-based siblings.
The Telluride may have just debuted, but it's already our favorite three-row SUV.
So
It's
this is a
quiet,
three-row
comfortable,
SUV, so
roomy,
it
capable,
has
and
3
in the
rows of
higher
seats.
trims,
A lot of
it
room.
offers
This is
luxury
from
touches
Kia.
that you would normally only find in vehicles costing thousands more.
Not only is it roomy and comfortable with space for adults in all 3 rows, but it's versatile and thoughtfully designed. There are some nice touches you won't find in competitors, along with plenty of cup holders and charge points.
So that's pretty neat that you can go back and take a look at all the different styles of SUV. There's styles for big families, more off-roading, and you can take a look at that video too on your own time if you'd like to check out more about all things with SUVs. The next vehicle up we are going to take a look at happens to be one that is my preferred vehicle, and that is a pickup truck. And pickup trucks have evolved over the years. They are known for being able to have a typical bed in the back that you can put all different sorts of, whether it's equipment or boxes. And then you also have your inside space that typically some trucks either have a second row of seats or only have 1 row of seats, but they're typically used to help move bigger things around. A lot of construction people have trucks like this, or people that are landscapers typically have pickup trucks that they can put different types of equipment into the back to move around to make it easier for them. We'll take a look at some of the top 5 2020 truck models right now. Right here happens to be a Ford. The model is the F-150, one of the more popular trucks on the road. Here's a quick look at what it looks like inside of this model. So as you can see, lots of room inside this truck. And then we're going to take a look right now at the 2020 Chevy Silverado. Now Chevy's changed their design of the Silverado in the past couple years, and I'm still kind of warming up to the new design, but here's a look at what it looks like right now. Again, lots of room. This one happens to be two-toned. It looks like leather, and then it has other different kinds of gizmos and gadgets inside there too. Very, very nice design. The The last truck we'll take a look at is the Dodge Ram 1500. And I got a chance to rent one of these when I had my truck went in the shop one point, and I really liked the design of the Ram, and I really liked how it drove too. If you have ever driven in one of these, it's a very nice truck. Here's a little trip inside of it. And there you have the trucks right there. Another couple vehicles that we're going to take a look at on this episode include box trucks and 18-wheelers. So have any of you ever seen a box truck? So a box truck is usually used for, again, moving companies or food companies that have to really transport a ton of different things all over the place. We're going to take a look at a couple different images of some samples of what a box truck looks like. So this one right here happens to be very large, usually used for moving again. Here's another style right there. This one's more square. It's kind of smaller, but it's more has more height on the top. UPS uses a lot of good examples there for another box truck too. Finally, we are going to check out 18-wheelers. And 18-wheelers, again, are used for transporting really big quantities of things all over the place. Here's a video here that has, they usually call them big rigs. And we'll take a look at some of the big rigs right now. You also need a special license to drive trucks like this too. Here's a 18-wheeler that's actually carrying a bunch of other vehicles on it. So they can be used to transport cars too. So I hope you got a great understanding of all the different types of cars and styles and brands there are in this world. We're going to be able to have these videos available for you so you can go back and take a look at them on your own time, because maybe there's this particular style of car there that you really like that you want to go back and watch. Again, we hope that you're interacting with us so we can get a better understanding of what you like on the different vehicles that are out there on the road. I do think you're going to really enjoy this next video that I'm going to share with you, and that showcases some of the most expensive and rare cars there are in the world. As we know, there's so many different brands and styles of all these cars. So it'll be neat to see what some of the most expensive and rare cars are of all time. So let's check that out right now.
Rare cars, like a good cognac, are becoming better and more expensive over the years. Auto collectors spend massive sums on the purchase of retro cars. It's not surprising because every such car is a separate part of history, a symbol of the glory of previous owners, and an entire era that is frozen in metal. Hi guys, this video is about rare. Argue about who is the best out of Messi and Ronaldo, and there were similar disputes 30 years ago over which car is cooler, the Lamborghini Countach or Ferrari F40. This red deity was born in 1987 to the 40th anniversary of the brand. The name F40 appeared for this reason. The supercar accelerated from 0 to 62 miles per hour in 3.8 seconds. It has an impressive engine power of 478 horsepower under the hood, even by today's standards.
We're going to fast forward the video just a little bit, but we'll share this with you so you can go back and
we
watch
got to that
more
retro
of it
car,
later.
which for a long time was considered the most expensive. The Bugatti Type 57 SC Atlantic 1936 re-released in 2010 and was bought at an auction for a record $38 million. In
Do you
total,
believe that?
$3
$38 million
of this
for
supercar
this
were
vehicle.
produced, and only 2 have survived to this day. The first is in the collection of Ralph Lauren, and here is a short story of the latter. It was made by the order of Rothschild. Afterwards, having come down with $50,000, its owner was then Peter Williamson. It should be noted that his investment was a success because in 40 years he sold his Bugatti for $38 million. The motor with a capacity of 210 horses was on the cult car, which accelerates to its top speed of 124 miles per hour. This speed may seem weak for some, but do not forget that this masterpiece was born in 1936.
Can you even imagine paying $38 million for a vehicle? From that video that we just saw there, Ralph Lauren, a fashion designer, paid $38 million for that Bugatti car. That's just wild. What we'll be able to do is share this video with you so you can go back and watch a little bit more of it. It's a little bit longer, so we're only able to share a little bit with you. But you can go back in your own time and watch some of the most expensive and rare cars of all time. I think it's a really neat video that you can take a look at. Have you ever thought about the future for cars? Maybe what cars may look like or what cars may do. Do you ever think that cars might be able to actually drive themselves without a steering wheel? Well, I happen to have a video right here that's going to talk about what the future could look like for cars. And it's actually inspired by the movie Avatar. So let's check it out. It says this is Mercedes Vision Avatar. It is a futuristic vehicle. And again, inspired by James Cameron's film Avatar. The car is meant to act like a living organism that connects with its driver. Its rear end is covered in 33 scales called bionic flaps. These can be used for communicating with people outside of the car. Isn't that amazing? I don't know if I want this from a car. It's kind of scary to think about. The car has no steering wheel. Instead, you place your hands and it reads your pulse and lets you guide it. I don't want this in the future. How interesting is it? It says the seats, the dash, and the floorboard are made of recycled materials. So an environmentally friendly car, too. And its 110 kilowatts an hour battery contains special organic cells, which are free of the Earth's rare materials. So definitely is trying to help the environment here with this car. That could be a part of our future. So we'll share the rest of that video with you so you can get a chance to look more into what the future of cars may end up being. Truly fascinating to think about a car that runs on the pulse of your hands, and that's how you guide it. That's just unbelievable too. I also have another video of future concepts of cars that you can also take a look at on your own time. We'll watch a little bit of it right now. But again, thinking about the future of what cars can look like can be often very cool, but often kind of scary. And again, we'll share that video with you because there's different brands and different types of what cars could look like for the future. Right there was an example of a Mercedes. Do you remember one of the first things that we talked about at the beginning of our show when I said that we're going to share a video with you about how to make your own man-made car obstacle course? We're going to take a look at that now from Dude Perfect. And again, this is an example of what you could do to build your own special car obstacle course. He's using a race car right here, and you could do the same as well. We want you to be able to share that with us so we can give it a better idea of how you did with this project in creating something on your own. So let's check out how awesome this obstacle course is.
Ladies and gentlemen, start your engines. And we're off on a slippery shuffleboard. Headed into the duct tape drawbridge of doom. We'll test even the most skilled drivers, but he handles it with ease. Down the transition, needs a little speed up the jump. Fix the landing with just enough room to spare. Remember folks, name of the game, don't fall in the lava. Across the ball today. Oh, a lot of people struggle there, but he makes it look easy. Into, gets a little hung up, but he recovers. Into the 90-degree box turn. This is where things get hairy, folks. Gets up on the box, into the log roll. He hangs onto the log roll. Up the chairs. Do the chair kick with speed. Hits the ramp. Over this chair. Down the table. Down the ramp. Where did...
Could you do something like that? I know that's something that I'm going to actually get a chance to maybe try when I have an opportunity to. It's very cool. So again, use your own mind, your own creativity to make your own kind of obstacle course that you think would be pretty cool to share with us. That's going to do it here on our episode today on transportation. Again, we talked about all things cars. We'll be with you again on our next episode where we will talk more about transportation, but we will talk about ways of getting around via an airplane. Maybe we'll even talk about some helicopters and other ways of transporting around too. I hope you all enjoyed today's episode, and we will see you again next time on another episode of FaceTime. We'll see you then. Goodbye.